Hi everyone, welcome back to another session on Python. Today is day 4 and today we'll be looking at functions, modules and the standard library. So today's focus would be building reusable logic blocks, understanding how Python iterates under the hood and importing external toolkits. Okay, so in this session, in today's session, so we'll be looking at Python functions, Python arrays, and Python iterators. Iterators because an iterator is an object that can contain, that contains basically a countable number of values that you can, span through or transverse through. So lists, tuples, dictionaries, and sets are all iterable objects. And we'll also take a look at for loop, how a for loop actually creates an iterator using iter function. And then we'll also take a look at the next function until a stop iteration error is raised. Okay. Then Python range, we had already discussed about Python range. Sorry, this is for day 4, my mistake. Oh, no, that's fine. Apart from that range, we had already taken a look at range. And then we will look at some toolkits and math and time functions as well. Okay. So math functions like min, max, absolute. And then we'll also at the end we'll take a look at time or date time functions. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay. Now, in our very first example, we'll look at like if I want to define a function with parameters and a default value. So I can do that using this approach. So basically, whenever I'm creating a function or whenever I want to create a function, I just give me a second. Let me just comment. Now, first, like if I want to create a function, so I'll start off with the def keyword, and then I'll name the function name calculate underscore tax, and then I'll provide the parameter. So here, the name of the function is calculate underscore tax. The first parameter that I'll pass is subtotal, and the second parameter that I've passed is rate tax underscore rate, and I have provided default value for the second parameter, which is 0.08. Okay. Now, next, within the function, what the function will do? Function will basically calculate tax amount. So tax amount is equal to subtotal multiplied by tax rate, and final total is basically the subtotal added by tax amount. Then we are going to return final total. So this return, so this final total will be our output. Okay. Now this particular line or return final total will just send the data back to the caller. Okay. Now if I want, if I want, once I've created the function, I want to call the function. Okay. So I want to execute the function. Now to execute the function, so basically I have to create a variable. I'm just creating a variable cart value. This is my value. And then total price, I'm creating another value, total price. In this total price, I'm assigning a function calculate underscore tax, and I'm passing the variable cart underscore value. Okay. Now this will override the default tax rate, which is 15% that we have. So this will just override. Now, next, if we are going to find out total price, okay, if we are going to find out the total price, then again we can use calculate underscore tax, and then we'll provide two values. So for 15%, to override the default value, so cart value and 0.15. So what it will do, so the second parameter tax underscore rate that we have, it will just overwrite it from 0.8 to 15, 0.15. Again, to repeat my case, in the first example, we have total price. In the first example, basically, the card value will be 250 and the default rate will remain 0.08 because we have not passed a second parameter. But in the second example, we are providing two parameters. The first value is the cart value and the second value is 0.15, which is 15%. Now, if I just go ahead print out the the two variables, total price and INTL total price, we will get the result. Okay, so now let me just execute. Okay, so now I can see, so the standard total is $270. Okay, the standard total, so which is total price. And then in the second print, the international total, which is $287.5. Okay, now let's take a look at the next example. In this next example, we will look at printing. We'll look at creating arrays. Okay, so let's take a look at it and how to print them. Okay, so let me create a list first. Okay, so I'm creating vehicles and then I'm creating three items in my list: Tesla, Ford, and Toyota. Okay, now I want to create a loop. Okay, I want to create a Python loop, or I want to show how a Python loop actually works under the function iter. Okay, now if I'm just using the function iter and then then vehicles. So let me first show you how it works. Okay, so now you see, since I'm getting the very first value, so iter basically grabs the first item. Okay, so since we have used iter vehicles, and then sorry, the next grabs the first value, and then if we print out vehicle, if we print out vehicle iterator, we will get all the values. Um, since we have used next, let me just first print out print vehicle iterator. Okay, and then we will use next. Okay. I think I didn't save it. Okay. Now, okay. So since we had used oh, my mistake. So I just want to print vehicle iterator. Okay, iter one. Okay. So if I'm creating or if I'm using iter underscore vehicle, so this is the output that you'll get. It will internally it will list out or create an array which will store the items in my list. Okay, and then if I'm using next, with every next it will print out the next value that it has printed earlier. Okay, the number of time it calls, it remembers internally the number of time it has been called, and then it will give me the next result. Okay, now so to give you an example, so here if you can see, in the first next I'm getting the first value, and the second next I'm getting the second value. If I keep on using the next another time, I will get the next value, which is Toyota. Okay, now, okay, so Next, I mean, in the next example, if I want to, range function, I've already discussed about range function. If you do not remember, please take a look at the previous videos where you can find how we have used range function. So basically, if I want to use an iteration, so basically for num in countdown, print countdown. So every time between the range -1 and -2, so it will generate 10 values and then it will just print out all the 10 values. Okay. Now I will just comment this part. Okay, so now you can see from from 10 it goes one step. Sorry, my mistake. From 10 it goes one step minus. Sorry, two steps minus, and it will go in the negative direction. Okay, so in the negative direction, and it will go two steps. So and it will end before -1. Okay, the range is 10 to -1, and it will go -2 steps. So it starts from 10, then 8, then -2, 6. 4, 2, 0, and after 0, since it is -2, that's why, since and we have provided a range of -1, that's why it will stop at 0, and then we will not get anything beyond that. Okay. Next, if I want, next we'll take a look at built-in maths functions and how we can import some math modules. Okay. Now, so if I'm executing these functions or these operations, okay, we don't need to import any module. Okay, so basically, if I want to find the max of this particular tuple, or I just want to print out, I can do that. Okay, so min, max, all these are default functions available. Okay, 99. So out of these three values, you can see 99 is the max. So now, apart from that, okay, apart from that, if I want something like a square root or round up, round down, okay, for those kind of functions, I will need like dot ceil function, dot floor function. So for those kind of functions, I will need to import a library called math. Okay, now importing a library is fairly simple. So now you can see I have imported import math. So this is a library or a publicly available library that is available. Within this particular library, a lot of inbuilt functions are there. Okay. Now, like for example, square root, pi, ceil, floor, all these functions are available for rounding up and rounding down. Okay. Now, even other functions are also available. So basically, if I want to import, so math is not just the only module. So apart from math, there are plenty of other modules also available. For data science, for many applications, there are plenty of other modules available. So math is one of the modules that we can use. Then NumPy is another very popular module available for mathematical operations. Pandas is another popular module available for table operations. Okay, so then Seaborn is available for visualization. Then Streamlit is also available. It is for AI visually. If you want to do something with the visual AI, so you can use Streamlit as well. Okay. So here we have used math, and let me just execute this. Okay, so now you can see square root of 64 dot sqrt, since we are defining a number 64, and then we are using math dot sqrt number, and then again we are doing a pi value. So this is the pi value, then this is the ceiling for 14.2, round up is 14, then floor value for 14.2 is 14. Okay. Okay. Next, we'll take a look at the datetime function. Okay. Now, in the datetime function, what we have is the first function is now. So datetime.now. So basically this one will give me the exact time. So I'm creating a variable current underscore time, and this one if I'm using datetime.now. So this one is the actual function, and this is the library from datetime module. Again, we are importing datetime class, and from datetime class we are importing the function now. Okay. And next, in the next example, if I want to convert something to a date time, okay, now datetime dot datetime, and then we can pass the value year, month, and day in this particular format, and then we can also it will just convert it and give us a date. Okay. Apart from that, if so we also have another function string f time. So this if we want like in a particular format, okay, like full month, then day, and 4-digit years, then this is how we can pass uh, the values, and we can use the function strf time. Okay. But we will have to pass it on a datetime variable. Okay, so now this is, since this is a datetime variable, we have passed this. So now we are using a function on top of it. We get it in a particular format. So now if I go ahead and execute, okay, so now what we are getting. So yeah, so in the first example, so current time, then okay, let me just execute it again. Okay, so first print, so this print, so current date time, so we're getting, and then this one we did not print, but yeah, if you want, I can just print it out. Okay, so in the second, so now if you remember, if you see what we have passed in the numbers, okay, and then we are getting the variable as date and time. Okay, next, formatted date, again we are string formatting the time, and then we get in June 23, 2026 in a particular format or whichever format you want. Okay, so basically that's it for today's session. So if you have liked the video, please do subscribe, follow my channels, okay? And if you feel like there is more that can be done with some more examples, feel free to reach out through comments on more specific examples or scenarios. So that's it for today. Thank you so much.